Hey, I'm Lee, and I'm a knitter and a movie watcher, and this is the third week in a series of weekly videos about this horror movie knitting project I'm doing. I'm knitting a cardigan to horror movies. Getting into it, last week I ended off at almost the top of the front, the right front, and I did the first movie to this little top part. I actually forgot I was still doing the neck shaping, so I knit almost the entire thing and then I had to frog back to the beginning and do the neck shaping. So even though it's little, I was kind of knitting for the whole movie because I knit it twice, but it's still very little stripe. And I did that to Vampire's Kiss, classic 80s Nicolas Cage. I had never seen it before. I bought the DVD because I found it cheap and I knew it was kind of a cult classic. Amazing Nicolas Cage performance. I never could have imagined. You may have seen clips of it and maybe you thought in the context of the movie it would make sense or something, but no, none of it makes any sense. His performance is truly incredible. He has this accent that comes and goes and isn't really, it sounds kind of British sometimes. Just all of his choices are so weird, so entertainingly weird. I recommend watching the entire movie just for that performance. The plot is kind of whatever, but I'm glad I own it because I will be revisiting. And next, I started the left side, and I knew I had this plan that I wanted to start off the left side with the wider stripe so that the stripe alignment was mismatched between the two sides. So I focused on knitting faster and so I knit extra wide while watching. This is the whole franchise box set that I bought. Seed of Chucky is what we watched. So we've been watching the whole Child's Play series, which I had never seen any of before. So we decided for this October challenge to watch the whole series for the first time. So we're now on Seed, or we just watched Seed, which is like the fifth one, and it just got so wacky, so silly. It makes no sense at all. The first three are more serious, and then Bride gets sillier and wackier, and then Seed gets so silly and wacky that you can't think about it at all anymore because it makes no sense. None of it makes any sense at all. Not that it did in the first place, but you know. John Waters is in it. There's Jennifer Tilly is playing herself, but she's also the voice of Tiffany. So it's so silly. So for the third one, I decided to try something that had been in my watch list for a while that's a little bit higher quality, maybe you might say. It's on Criterion Channel. It's a Criterion movie from 2019 called La Llorona, and not to be confused with some other movies about the same mythology that are very different. This one is a Guatemalan movie. It is horror genre, but it's a little bit more like drama with magical realism. But the magical realism is, makes it horror genre, and also the horror of what it's about. So I watched a special feature interview with the director too to get more context, and I would recommend watching that too if you watch the movie. It's a really good interview that I learned a lot about his background and stuff. So he had made 2 drama films prior to this, and about different parts of Guatemalan history and kind of issues in Guatemala. And he decided to make this movie about the genocide that happened, which I learned a lot about from the movie and the interview. And he decided a movie about genocide would be fitting to be a horror genre movie. So he did make it, intending it to be a horror genre movie, but coming from the background of being like a drama filmmaker, and bringing magical realism from the culture into it, and the mythology of La Llorona, which is from the culture. Really good movie. If you're not a big horror person, it's like I said, it's not like really standard horror genre. It's a bit different. It feels more like a drama. So I would recommend that if you're interested at all in that kind of thing, which I am. Um, Very satisfying to see someone who contributed to genocide facing consequences for his actions, and with the magical realism, magical consequences, because of course he's based on a real person who faced no actual consequences, as usually happens. So it's nice to see something come to a fictional version of a real life person, even if it's just fiction. Good movie. And for the next one, I knit this so fast I finished it before the movie was over because I was speed knitting for this movie. Scariest movie of the week is called Infested. It's a French horror movie on Shudder. Spider horror. A very good movie. Very, very scary. The spiders were scary. If you do have a fear of spiders, probably want to avoid this one. I don't like spiders, but I don't have a phobia or anything. It was still very scary. Something that made it even better was the spiders were not the actual villains of the story. That was someone else who I'll let you discover for yourself. It had a lot of different kinds of horror. It had some horrible things happening that didn't have to do with the spiders and were very emotional to me. So it was a roller coaster horror movie. It was a really good one that I would recommend if you like horror. It is very scary, so it's for horror fans. Loved it. And then I finished the front, and Carl is sitting on the sleeves. There we go. Okay. So then I started the sleeves, and I'm doing them 2 at a time. The main reason I'm doing these, I prefer doing sleeves 2 at a time generally when I'm knitting a sweater, if possible, but it is making it so the stripes are more narrow than if I had done 1 at a time. The stripes would be much wider, which would be kind of more in fitting with the body of the sweater. But I'm having like a yardage game of chicken happening with the sleeves, so I basically want to see how much sleeve I can get out of my yarn, and I might have to cut them a bit short, and I'm planning on cutting them a little bit shorter than the pattern says. It might be more than a little, depending on how it goes. I just wanted to do 2 at a time, so I didn't knit one sleeve and then start the second sleeve and run out of yarn. So this way I can make them the same length. That's my knitting plan, and besides that, I'm doing according to the pattern. So I started the sleeves after the last couple movies that were very serious and heavy and scary, or heavy and or scary. I wanted a lighter pick next. I decided to search for a comedy, horror comedy. So browsing Hoopla, which, by the way, Hoopla free with a library card. Your little side tangent here. Your library may or may not be connected with Kanopy and or Hoopla. I'm lucky. My library here in Portland is connected with both Kanopy and Hoopla, so I can have both. And they both allow you 10 free rentals per month with your library card. And that's streaming, so it's just like Netflix or something streaming on your TV, but you're like checking out a movie, each time you watch one. So there's a limit on it, but if you have both, then that's 20 per month. Also, if you have maybe a student library card and a county library card or something, if you have multiple libraries, then you can have multiple accounts and then check out more. So they have some overlap. Some movies are on both Kanopy and Hoopla, and then some are on just one or just the other. They've been getting really good the last couple of years, especially. They've been really adding a lot of movies, a lot of like new-ish movies. A lot of movies are just like 1 or 2 years old, and some that are like brand new on both of them. And Hoopla has a lot of horror. Kanopy has a lot of horror too, actually. They both have a lot of horror and a lot of all kinds of different things, all kinds of, and they both have TV too, so you can check out TV shows as well. I just want to very highly recommend that because not everyone knows about it. Free, no ads. So like, Tubi and stuff is free with ads. Kanopy and Hoopla, both library card, totally free, totally no ads. Amazing. So sometimes I just browse on those looking for what's newly added, and this one was one that came up. Apparently it was like a Shudder original movie. So I went into it not really knowing anything about it at all, just like I found it, it said it was a comedy horror, so checked it out. It's really fun for Halloween time, spooky season. It takes place mostly in like a cabin at night with the power out, lit by fire, and so it's very like scary fall vibes. And the whole plot of the movie is two people telling scary stories to each other, trying to scare each other. So it's a nice cozy scary story by fire vibe. Gets a little bit weird in the third act. Didn't love where it ended up going in the end, but as a whole, the movie was like pretty fun if you like that kind of just like fun, kind of light vibe. Yeah. And then the last one, my least favorite out of the 6. I did 6 this week. Pretty good collection of movies, but this last one, not really for me. It's called Haunt. Oh, I rented it from the library again. I'm big library week. So I walked to my local library and rented this on DVD because it is streaming free, but it's on Tubi, I think it'll say in the thing. Which is with ads. So this way I could watch it without ads. It's not my favorite kind of horror. It's about a haunted house, and I thought maybe it'd be more like fun comedy or campy or haunted housey, but it was more like serious. It's just kind of like a serious horror movie with scary people murdering kids or young people. Not like a lot to it. I don't know. It's fine. It wasn't a bad movie. It was just like not for me. And so now in the next week, I hope to complete the sleeves. Again, the stripes will be smaller because of 2 at a time. And then next week I'll be back with those movies. I do the sleeves too. And then I'll be seaming all the pieces together, button band, blocking, all that in the final week. And I think I'm on track pretty good to finish. Again, this is the 3rd in the series, so you can go back to the 1st to see more details about the pattern and the yarn and stuff. And in the description, I'll link to the pattern and yarn and info about it and my other previous movie sweater projects, blog posts and stuff like that. And if you want me to talk about anything specific in these future videos or a different, totally other knitting video, movie video, I guess, anything, I'm just kind of playing around with the format, playing around with the YouTube video, learning how to do video editing as I'm doing this and stuff. So if there's something that you're like, hey, could you do video on this like knitting technique or something or whatever, like I can add that to my list of videos to make. So I'll see you next week. And Carl is in the shot. I'm glad he hung out again. Carl and I will both see you next week.